Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the third session of the Flutter Festival series. In today's session, we'll be getting started with Figma and Flutter. I'm Anjana, and I'll be taking you through the basics of Figma, and we'll also learn to design a small travel app, following which Jahnavi will help you with Android Studio and Flutter. Let me start off by giving a small introduction to Figma. Figma is basically a vector-based graphic design tool used to create anything that you want for the web. For example, user interfaces, illustrations, or even icons. So if you want to design a smartwatch app, you could do that on Figma. Or if you even want to design a large e-commerce website, you can do that as well. Now moving on to the thing that you can't do with Figma. Yeah, Figma doesn't work like a photo editing tool or a 3D design or even a video editing. So Figma is basically a vector design tool used for wireframing websites, designing apps, or prototyping designs. Now, I would like all of you to create a Figma account before we begin, because we can't move on without this. You can log into this website with your Google credentials, and then we can get started. You could take about 2 to 3 minutes for this. Okay, so if you have created an account and opened a new design file, your interface would look something like this. On top, we have the toolbar. And this is the main menu with the usual options like file, edit, or view. This is the selection tool with move and scale. Here we have the frame option, which gives us a few predefined sizes for different devices like phone, tablet, or the desktop. This is for the basic shapes. Here we have the pen and the pencil tool, the text tool. This is the pan tool, and this is for comments. On the left here, we have the layer section. You wouldn't be able to see any pages here. It'll just be page one for you guys because it is a new design file. And on the right, we have the property section. It is not visible now because the screen right here is empty. So yeah, this is what we just spoke about, the toolbar and the file editor. So today we'll be going to design this travel app. We just have two screens here just to get familiar with Figma and how it works. So I've taken this from Dribbble, which is a website where most of the designers post their work, and you can get inspiration from Dribbble. Now let's move on to Figma and see how it's actually done. So this is the inspiration which I've taken from Dribbble, and these are the final screens. Okay, now we'll move on to the components and get started with the first screen. So this is the screen one, and the top section here is what we'll be doing now. Okay, so I think Jahnavi would have shared the link to this file. You guys can open that file and copy paste the assets from the file. So the assets I mean are the small icons here. I'll also tell you how to download these icons. So you can use a website called Flaticon. You can go to this URL and search for any icon that you're looking for. You can select an icon and go to edit icon on top. Okay, so before this, you have to log in or sign up. Okay, and after that, you can go edit icon, put in the color which you want, and then download as a high resolution PNG. SVG is only for premium users, so let's ignore that. But PNG should work in most cases. Okay, so that's how you download the icons, and yeah. So then moving on to the first component, that is this header card here. I have used the iPhone 13 Pro frame here. Okay, I'll tell you how to do that. You can go to frames and select under phone, select iPhone 13 Pro Max. So this is how I've gotten this here. Okay, I'll delete this for now. You can press Control and plus to zoom in and Control minus to zoom out. I'll zoom in a little bit here. Okay, now to design this first section, I'll take a rectangle, drag it up till here, and check if it's aligned with the other rectangle. You can see the layers on the left here. So this is iPhone 13 Pro Max R frame, which is being highlighted. And this is the rectangle that we just drew. Okay, now we could put the image. So this is from Unsplash. It's a open source website where you get free stock images. You can go and download it from there. So now I'll duplicate this. You can duplicate by pressing Control and D. Okay, Control D is for duplicate. Click on the image, Control D, and then you can drag it from there. So now I'll be trying to enlarge the image to fit inside the rectangle. So yeah, this is how it will look after I've enlarged the image. You can press Shift and then enlarge so that it becomes big proportionally. So if you just pull from one side, it's going to be very haphazardly done. So I'll do that again, Control D, pull it, press Shift, and enlarge. Okay, we'll try to fit it in the rectangle here. Yeah, I think we're done. Now next we have a few icons here. That's the back, the search, and the menu icon. Let's put them there. So in your file, you can copy and paste from the link which we have given. Let's Control C and then Control V here. You can do Control D as well and drag the icon and drop it. So while designing screens, you have to keep in mind the spacing. So you can press Alt and move your icon a little to get to know the spacing. So this is the spacing from above, and this is the spacing or towards the left. So let's adjust the spacing according to what we want it to be. It's usually in multiples of 8. So let's follow the convention. Okay, we have the back icon set. Now let's put in the search, Control D, drag it and place it. So we have guidelines here, which makes our work a lot more easier. Let's keep some space for the menu icon as well. So just press once, Control D, and drag it. Now we can look at the space. Space between these two icons 32, which is what we wanted. Moving on to the title here. Let's put in the text, click on text and drag to draw a text box and type whatever you want to. Okay, now you can click outside somewhere and click on this icon, which fits to that particular width of the size of the text. So if you click on this, it gets engulfed in a box. Now about the font, we're using Roboto here. And for this particular text, we'll be going with medium and 36. Next, we have to have the name and this message icon. So again, go click on text and draw the text box. Type in the text. Okay, and fit to it. And also change the color. It is not exact. Okay, color is in the fill section here. So I'll just zoom in a little bit so you can see better. Yeah, so you can click on this to change the color. We don't want it to be exactly white because that's not how it is in our initial screen as well. So let's change the color here. Pull down the dropper a little to the bottom so that it's not exactly white. Or else you could even use the dropper tool, that is this one here. Click on the dropper and select any particular color. Suppose you want red from the image itself, you can click on this. But for now, we'll go with a light tone of white. We'll go for this. Next, we have to give the send icon, that is this one. It is there in the asset section here. So let's duplicate, Control D, drag it, and drop it here. So these guidelines tells us that the icon which we have just put is in line with Venice. Okay, now we have to adjust the spacing between Italy and the icon. So click on Italy and shift and right. You can check the spacing also. Let's go with 16. So 8 was our 16. Let's have the 8 convention going on here as well. Okay, so I hope that all of you have finished till this section. Now, so this was the first component in the first screen, the header section. We'll move on to designing these smaller cards, which you see here, the attractions card. So we'll go to that screen. Yeah. This is the section we'll be doing now, and the assets we've used are this image and the small stars. So I've downloaded these from Flaticon by the way I just showed you. So this is what we have designed previously. Now we'll design the card below it. Okay, so this is also with the rectangle. So let's start off with a rectangle. Just draw a random rectangle inside the frame. Check for the spacing. Click on Alt and check for the spacing. So we want it to be 16 pixels apart from the corners. So let's press Ctrl plus plus and zoom in. You should be able to see the grids here. If you're not, you can go to the main menu, click on Preferences and turn on Snap to Pixel Grid. You should be able to see the grids then. You can resize this, press Alt so that you get to know the spacing. We need it to be 16. So yeah. The same thing on the other side as well. Let's check the spacing first, which is it's 14 now. Let's make it to 16. Yeah, okay. The color of, okay, so the color of the screen itself is not white. Let's change that. Let's uh, pick it from the inspiration screen as well. So, okay, so select this frame, that is our screen, the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Select dropper and you can click on this section to pick that same color. Yeah, now that screen is changed. This card is actually white, so let's go change the color here. Done. Now we can see that there is some corner radius here. Okay, so that is 8 in all sides. Let's go and replicate that. Click on the rectangle. Then you'll find this option here for corner radius. You can click on that and change the radius for different corners. So these two are for the bottom and these two are for the top corners. So now since we want all the corners to be of the same radius, you can go and drop in the value here. So that was, let me just check how much it was here. It was 8. So let's put 8. Now we have the image. The image card is overlapped with the white card which we just did. And the spacing is, click on the picture and press Alt to check the spacing. Okay. Get this here, Control D, drag it and bring it here. Since we saw that the picture was a little displaced from the white card, that's how the design is. So let's shorten the white card and check the spacing of this photo from the edge. So let's push that to a 16. You press on Alt to check the spacing. And now it's 16 here. Let's size this down a little bit so that it fits right into the frame. I'll go back and check how it was in our I think we should increase the size of this card here so that it fits properly. Yeah, perfect. Next, we have the heading and the subheading here. Let's put that. So go to text, draw the text box. You can pull this text box to make it bigger. The size is a little too big. So let's check what was it here. In the inspiration, it was in Roboto medium and 18. We'll do the same thing here as well. Roboto, this is regular. Let's change it to medium and 18. The subheading is done. Let's press Ctrl D and drag it down. Change this to the text which was mentioned before. That is site seeing tour. Click on this so that it fits properly. Change the weight. Let's make it regular, or let me go check how it is. So what we have used here is, okay, this is supposed to be Roboto. Roboto Lite N12. We'll replicate that. And the color of the text is not exactly black. It is a slight variation of black. Let's change that. Click on the text, go to fill and adjust the color here. Yes, okay. Next, okay, let's check the spacing. Click on the text box and press Alt. Okay, this seems good enough. Let's move on to the stars. Okay, so by stars, I mean the ratings which are given here. We have 5 stars with each star of size 7. You check the size here, the width and the height is 7. Let us try to do that. Take the star from here, Control D, bring it to the place you want it to be. Change the size. So I'll put this on so that, if I change the length, the width also changes proportionally. So let's change it to 7. Enter. This on. Turn this on and then put 7. Enter. Yeah, so now the star has resized itself proportionally in both the length and the width. Let's place it in the right place. Okay, Alt and then check for the spacing. Now you can press Ctrl D, Shift, and press right. And go over there again. Click on the star, Ctrl D, Shift, move right. You can check the spacing also here simultaneously. So let's go for a spacing of 8. Now, if you press Ctrl D, it's supposed to space itself the way we did automatically. So if I keep pressing Ctrl D, it's going to keep placing stars in the same space range. We just need 5 stars here. So I'm going to delete the rest. Delete this also. Now we are done with the image, the base card, that's the white card, the heading and the subheading, and the stars. We have these small boxes for the time. We'll do that now. Go to rectangle, draw a small rectangle of size, the size of this rectangle here was 74 by 26. We'll replicate that. And it also had a corner radius. So this is a place where you can enter the corner radius. We go with 8. Okay, and we can pick the color from our inspiration. So click on fill, select the dropper, and then click on the color. Yeah, so we have one rectangle. Let's put text inside this. That is the 9 a.m. one. Draw a text box and then type in your text. Now, we don't want this weight for the text here. We don't want medium at all because it just stands out too much. So let's reduce the weight to regular and fit to width. That is this icon here. Okay, and click on the text box, press Alt, and check for the spacing. So this spacing looks fine, that both the top and the bottom we have 4, and right and left we have 13 and 12. It seems okay. I feel like text is a little too huge even now, so I'll make it 10. And then the spacing. I'll move it a little more towards the right. Okay, yeah, so 16, 17, 6 and 5, good enough. We'll change the text color. Go to fill and make it a lighter version of black. Okay, now we can group this component. So select the text, press shift, and select the box underneath it. Okay, and press Ctrl G. I could go over that again. Click on the text, shift, select the box. And Ctrl G, we would have grouped this element here. Now let's duplicate this, that is Ctrl D, shift, and move towards the right. Let me check the spacing here. Let's have a spacing of 16. The time was 11 a.m. Let's give that. Finished with this. We have the amount and the per person text. Go to text box again. Draw and then shift dollar. Fit to it. Increase the size of the text to probably 36. Oh no, that's too huge. 24. I'll go check here itself what the text size is. It's 18. We'll follow that. 18. Check for the spacing from the edges. Click on the text box, press Alt, and then 16 from the top, 24 from the left. Oh, small subtext here. Click on this, change the text size, color. Okay, we'll change this to Roboto font, and yeah, this should be it. We'll try to make these two texts the same because we want it to be consistent. Here we have a Roboto light and 12. Let's follow that. Light 12. And you can select this, go here and select the Xcode, copy, Control C. Come here in the fill section, you can paste it so that we have the same color. I think we're done with the card here. We can place it side by side and check. We have covered the photo, the background, the white card, the stars, the text, these two boxes, and the amount. Yeah, we're done with that. Now the other cards are just the same. You can group this whole card as one. Just group the different elements. Press shift and then keep on selecting all the elements you want to group. finish selecting, press Ctrl G, and you can duplicate, that is Ctrl D, and drag it. You can replace the image, the text, and everything else for the other cards. It's the same process, just that the images and the text changed. We have finished both the components in screen 1. So that was these two, that is the header card and the attractions card. Now we'll move on to the components in screen 2, which would be the quick link section. This is the quick link section. We'll be going to do that now. These icons, like I said before, I've got it from Flaticon. Let us begin. Firstly, we have the text here. Text box, draw the text box, type in the text. It's too small, but we can enlarge that later. Click outside and fit to it. Increase the text size. Okay, that is too huge. Here we have Roboto bold and 28. Roboto bold and align it in such a way that it looks better. Okay, and check for the spacing. Click on Alt. Check for the spacing here. We have 16 and 85. Do the same thing. Shift and right. And check, press Alt and check the spacing. The left we have 16 and 85. So let's go on top. Then we have the quick link section here, right? So let's go to the shapes and select ellipse. Press down Shift and then drag. So that we have a proper circle and not like a displaced circle. So if I don't press on Shift, I'll be drawing a circle like this. We don't want that here. So let's press down Shift and draw the circle. Okay, the size of the circle here was a 71. Let's do the same. First circle had a different color because that was the selected option at that time. Let's do that. Is in the icon, Control D, drag it and place it in the center. You can click on Alt and then check if it's equally spaced. I'm going to group this, select the circle as well, and Control G. Okay, so the first quick link is done. Let's do the same for the others as well. You can press Control D and circle. Check for the spacing. Control D and Control D. So that will space it equally. Let's change the colors for all these three circles. Select all of them. Click on the color fill option here. Go to the dropper and select the color from here as well. Yeah, done. Now we have to replace the image. So let's delete the images, not the image, the icon, sorry. And pick the icons from here. Control D, drag it and drop it in the center. So the guidelines usually show you whether it's in the center or not, but we'll check it again. Yeah, enough. The other one, Control D, in the center, check. Now let's try to group each one of them. Control G. And group this whole section. Check for the spacing from the header text. Okay, cool. Now, next up, so we finished the first component. Yeah, in screen 2, we finished the first component. That was the quick link section. Next, we'll move on to the second part here. That is the top destination cards, which is actually a horizontal scroll. The assets used are just this picture, and the other picture you can get it from Unsplash, and this small icon here, which we've used in before as well. Let us start. So this is where we stopped last time in the screen. Now, what if you see this? We have two rectangles. One is this white card, and the other one is the image. We have text and a description. We'll try to replicate this. Go to shapes, rectangle. Okay, before that, let's put in the text here, that is top destinations. Drag it. Text size is too huge. Let us. It's too small. Check the space. Yet it should be 60. Now go to the rectangle. Draw a rectangle. Like you can check with your inspiration, like how big your rectangle is, and then create one accordingly. We have rounded corners here, so let's give that. Click on the shape and give a radius. Go for 12 probably. You could. Okay, this wasn't. Yeah, cool. Now we have the image here. Let's Control D and place it inside the rectangle. I'll size it down a little bit. There is some issue with this rectangle here. So for now, I'll just take it from the inspiration itself. Check for the spacing. 24. We have the card underneath it. I'll just change the color of the artboard to what was there in our inspiration, which is this, so that the whites stand out better. Rectangle, and then draw another rectangle. The card, click right click and click on bring to front. So that should bring it here. So this is our frame, iPhone 13 Pro Max, and the rectangle is above the frame. That's why I'm not able to see it inside. See, yeah, now I've put it inside the frame, so it's visible. I'll change the color of the rectangle, make it white, give it some radius, and place it beneath this, right? So click on this, right click and send to back. Okay, so that now it's gone behind the image. In the inspiration, this white card is protruding out a little from our main card. Let's do that. Now we have some text here. I'm just going to copy paste the text from here. Okay, draw the text box again. Increase this a little bit more. Copy the text from here. Is it? There's two empty space here in the white card. I'll just make it a little bit smaller. One more thing is I've given some shadow for this frame here. So that is in the properties panel, you can scroll down and check for effects. You could give a small drop shadow like this. So there's some blur, which tells how far the black shadow spreads. The color is black, which is in 25% opacity, and it's only there in the y-axis. That is, the spread only is there only in the y-axis of the image. Okay, so we're done with that card as well. So this is the same. The second card is the same, just that the images and the text differ. You can try this on your own. Since you have done so much, this shouldn't be a task for you guys. You can put up the text. And this is actually a link, but we'll be giving it as a text here and then the image. Now for this, the main menu at the bottom, this is nothing but a rectangle again with rounded corners. So I'll just show you how we have done this. I've duplicated it and you can see that the corner radius is 24 only for the bottom left and right corners. This is how you do that. And you can put in the icons and the account info here. That is basically how you design both the screens that we saw in the beginning. This is the final screens page. So I think I've gone through uh, all the different ways you can do it.
Thank you, Anjana, for walking us through the design. I'm Jahnavi, and now we'll be going to explore Android Studio and set it up to make our workflow better. And also, I'll walk you through the basic file structure that the Flutter provides us for the Travel UI app, which we'll be implementing. Okay, I'm guessing that you have opened Android Studio. So my Android Studio looks something like this. Yours might look different. And first, what we'll be doing is we'll be creating an Android emulator. So which is the virtual device we will be using so that we could test the app which we are building. So you could if your Android Studio structure is something of this sort, you could go here and click on a virtual device manager. Or if you have the other way, you could click on view more options and choose the device, the AVD manager. And now here you could click on create device, and here's a variety of virtual device you can choose from, and you could choose anything you want. Suppose I'll be choosing Pixel 3, and you could click on next. And there's also various system images available for us. You could choose any of them. Suppose I already have a Pi installed in my system, so that is it. And here the 28 is basically the version number of that system image, and we could click on next. And this is the AVD name. You could leave it to default or put it whatever you wish to. And you could select the startup orientation as portrait mode. That is how by default we'll be using our phone. And here the graphics card, you could either choose it to be hardware or it could be automatic. Choosing hardware would help you in a bit faster rendering, and it also would give you better experience when you're testing the app. So I'll be going with the default settings, and you could click on finish. And if this is the first time you're creating the virtual device, it could take a couple of minutes to install. Have already done this. I've installed Pixel 2 here. So you could do that. And next, what we could do is install the plugins. Plugins are basically uh, packages which help you build your app in a better helps and install a lot of tools into Android Studio, and which will again help us to create Flutter applications. You could go to plugins here, and also in the marketplace you could search for, first we'll be installing Flutter. So you could mine is already installed. You could install it, and then you would get an option to restart your IDE, and you could do that. And then other dependency which we would be installing is the Dart. Dart plugin, you could do the same, install it and restart your IDE. So this would take a couple of minutes if you're doing the first time, and then your Android Studio IDE would get restarted. Okay, so now after installing your plugins and after restarting your Android Studio, you would get basically three options in between, such as like new Flutter project, new project, and open. So you have got these options because of the plugins we have installed. We could just click on new Flutter project, and here it asks you to specify the Flutter SDK path, which you will be adding in the system environment variables. It will automatically detect the path most of the time. In case this appears empty for you people, you could go and you could choose the path. Mine is in my C drive, FF Flutter. So this, by doing this, the SDK has been added to path, and I could click on next. And here we could give our project name. Since we're building a travel app, I'll be naming it travel app. And you could also choose your desired location and a description for the project, that building a new Flutter project or anything. And you could leave the rest to the default settings, and you could, okay. So all of this has to be in lowercase. So you could do this, and this will automatically create the Flutter project. You don't need to do stuff, write commands like create Flutter and the name of that. So this by default will create it. So you can again customize your Android Studio by going to File and Settings. So here's appearance and behavior. Now by default, I've gotten uh, dark theme. I've selected as a dark theme, but you could customize everything you want. You could choose various themes, and you could also choose the size of your font. And I could, for example, make it bigger so that, and click on apply. Okay, so it's visible better. So this is it. And now you can so this is all the changes you can do. And now this is the workspace where we'll be doing most of the stuff. And this is the folder which we'll be working in. So this is the travel app. And now here, so let's look at the folder structure. At first glance, you might think that all of this to be a very confusing, but let me break it down to you. It's actually very simple. So we have called our app the travel app, and all the source code will eventually go into this folder. And here again, in turn, we have many folders inside the travel app. So this is the external libraries we have, and this basically constitutes of any library we have installed from externally, and like the libraries that our app depends upon. And again, inside this travel app, you can see we have folders such as iOS and Android. So these are again platform specific folders. So anything to do with the Android platform has all the stuff, all the what do you say, like icons and everything for Android, and everything that has to do with iOS would go into this folder. Now the library or lib folder is where the most of our 99% of our source code is going to be, and this is the main dot file. So this is where we're going to write 99% of the stuff we do, and we could like pretty much ignore the rest of the files. They are just basically data present which would be useful for us while testing the apps. For example, the test folder, this has all any kind of test files for testing the application, so we're just going to ignore them as of now. So now this is the Dart file which we have. Uh, like covered in the first session of Flutter Festival, everything in Flutter would be written in Dart. So you could create the file will be created with a Dart extension. And now when you look at this, there's a lot, but there's just 80% of it is just comments, and it's just telling you what it looks like. So basically we can see here that everything works in the form of classes and widgets. So everything in Flutter will be inside a widget. Whatever code you're building in Flutter will be inside a widget. So the central purpose of Flutter is to build everything out of widgets. Now you could the widgets are again nested one inside each other. The material app, this is a widget, and the my home, everything is a widget, and they are like nested one inside each other. So there's basically one main widget and everything inside of that. So these are the basic, this is the classes and widgets. This is one of the class in the um, file. So this is how it is going to be. Now again we have the widget built, which is another widget, and again inside we have the app bar and center and columns. So columns, all of these come under a under the layout widgets. It basically helps you arrange everything uh, in the form of arrange everything and put them in a order. So here we'll be using stateless widgets. So stateless widgets are the ones who cannot be altered once they are built, like the variables, icons, and buttons used, so they cannot be changed during the state of the app. And also everything in Flutter, like a page or a screen, is also called as root. So creating these roots and everything is every are the object oriented concepts which was covered in the first session. So this is how everything is going to be. Now we will run a base. I could remove all of this. And this is what our basic app would look like. We'll build one right now. So this is the package.flutter. So this is where all the uh, tools and everything required will be imported from Dart. And we could also write something as material app, which is a part of widget app. So basically, widget app is a library which provides the basic navigation, and material app is again a part of it, which will help you uh, build various stuff. So you could do it along with me, and if you have any doubts, you could stop me. So here we'll import the material app library. And now we want to suppose import some text called home. This is the front page where we'll be writing and text. We could send the text in a pair of in as a string. That is, it'll be a string. So I could write travel app y. Suppose I've written this, and also everything after this, I'm going to place a comma. So basically in Flutter, we have many properties, and these properties are inside our widgets. And so we have always use a comma separated. So we are always separating it using a comma from one property to another. And also this is a very good practice to after you uh, put the value of your property here. So this is the basic app. Now, since as we installed the AVD manager in the starting, you could go to no devices selected and select your Android emulator here, which will open up in the site. So this is where all our testing and the preview of our app and all would be present. So here we could press on run main dart. It would take a while for the ones who is running it initially. There'll be text like initializing Gradle. So that is when you're doing it initially for the first time. So it would take 2 minutes or so. Okay, so you can see that this is how it would look initially. We have not customized it as per our needs. This is just by default. So this is how it runs in a pretty blank slate. If you want to see the previous, the Flutter app, which was given to us by default, we could run this as well. I could click something called hot reload, which will load everything onto this thing. So this is what Flutter provides us by default. So this is just a basic app. So I will explain the terminologies a bit. So here we have the Flutter demo, which will be here, and the title of the screen is the Flutter demo homepage, which will be here. And again, inside the text, when we use the text function, you could include the number of thing. And here we also have an increment button done with a string interpolation. So when we click on this, it'll get updated accordingly. So that's basically it. So that's basically it for this session. Now we have introduced all of you to the design and how it is set up and basically made in Figma. And coming to Android Studio, we have introduced you to the file structure and various uh, widgets and classes involved in this. Now, these are the topics that we've covered today, and we'll be diving deep into the Flutter uh, into we'll be diving deep into Flutter in tomorrow's session, and we'll be coding out and implementing the design that Anjana walked out through. Thank you so much for attending this session.